First contact and dismissal. The massive ship appeared over Central Park without warning, its obsidian surface reflecting nothing, as if it consumed light itself. It hung motionless, a kilometer-wide disk that dwarfed the skyscrapers surrounding the park. Panic erupted across Manhattan as sirens blared and military jets screamed overhead. Captain Maya Chen stood on the roof of the United Nations building with other military representatives, watching as smaller craft descended from the mothership. Despite 15 years of combat experience across 3 continents, she felt her mouth go dry. This was beyond anything humanity had prepared for. "They're making their approach," General Harris muttered beside her, binoculars trained on the lead craft. No weapons visible, but that doesn't mean much. The alien delegation landed with precision on the UN Plaza. When the craft's doors finally opened, Maya's first thought was that the aliens looked almost disappointingly ordinary, bipedal, with 2 arms and a head, though their skin shimmered with an iridescent quality that shifted between blue and green. "Greetings, representatives of Earth," the lead alien said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Trellix of the Galactic Concordat, a coalition of 327 sentient species. We have been observing your world for some time and believe you are ready for first contact." What followed was a whirlwind of diplomacy. The aliens, who called themselves the Selrani, brought news that humankind had dreamed of for centuries. Humanity was not alone, and the galaxy teemed with intelligent life. 2 weeks later, Maya found herself aboard the Selrani mothership, now in orbit around Earth, as part of a military assessment team. The Concordat representatives were evaluating Earth's technology and capabilities to determine its membership tier. "These projectile weapons," said Commander Drell, a high-ranking Selrani military officer, picking up an M4 carbine with obvious disdain. "Fascinating that you've advanced to space travel while still using such primitive tools." Maya kept her expression neutral despite the insult. "They're reliable and effective for our needs." Drell made a sound like bubbles through liquid, apparently Selrani laughter. "Perhaps against each other, Captain Chen. But in the wider galaxy, such weapons are museum pieces. Most spacefaring civilizations developed energy-based weapons before leaving their home systems." The evaluation continued for days. Earth's military representatives demonstrated jet fighters, missile systems, nuclear submarines, and satellite technology. The aliens observed with expressions ranging from amusement to pity. Finally, Ambassador Trellix delivered their assessment to the UN Security Council. Maya sat in the back row, her uniform crisp, but her patience fraying. "Earth will be classified as a Tier 4 civilization," Trellix announced. "This entitles you to limited trade rights, restricted access to technological exchanges, and observation status in Concordat affairs." Tier 4. The UN Secretary-General leaned forward. "How many tiers are there?" 7, Ambassador Trellix replied, with Tier 1 being founding members. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Earth was being offered nearly the lowest status possible. "May I ask why we rank so low?" the Secretary-General asked. Trellix gestured to Commander Drell, who activated a holographic display showing alien vessels firing energy beams that cut through asteroids like butter. "Your military technology is particularly concerning," Drell said. "You still rely on chemical propellants and explosives. Your ships cannot achieve faster than light travel. Your communications are limited to electromagnetic radiation. Without significant advancement, you would be a liability rather than an asset to the Concordat." Maya felt her face flush with anger, but maintained her composure. The aliens had barely looked beyond their weapons. They hadn't considered tactics, adaptability, or the one thing humans excelled at, finding ways to win despite overwhelming odds. 3 months passed. Earth accepted its Tier 4 status, and the initial excitement of first contact faded into disappointment. The Concordat established an embassy in Geneva and began limited cultural and scientific exchanges, though advanced technology remained firmly off-limits. Maya had returned to her regular duties with the multinational defense force when the alert came. All military advisors with Concordat clearance were summoned to the alien embassy immediately. When she arrived, the atmosphere was tense. Ambassador Trellix and Commander Drell huddled with other alien representatives, their usual composure shattered. "Thank you for coming," Trellix said, uncharacteristic urgency in his voice. "We face a situation that may concern Earth." A holographic display activated, showing star systems and planets Maya didn't recognize. 3 days ago, our outposts in the Rigel sector went silent, Drell explained. Yesterday, we lost contact with 2 colony worlds. Our reconnaissance ships found this. The display shifted to show massive asymmetrical vessels with glowing violet cores. They seemed almost organic, with tendrils extending from central masses. "The Void Harbingers," Trellix said grimly, "a non-Concordat species from the galactic rim. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They consume resources, including sentient beings, and move on." "You've encountered them before?" Maya asked. "Once, nearly 50 Earth years ago," Drell replied. "We drove them back, but at great cost. If they've returned in force, what does this have to do with Earth?" General Harris asked. Trellix looked uncomfortable. "The Harbingers move methodically through space. Based on their current trajectory, they will reach your solar system within 6 months." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "We will defend Concordat space, including Earth," Drell added quickly. "Our battle fleets are already mobilizing." Maya studied the tactical display, noticing something odd. "These invasion patterns, they're adapting to your defensive formations, aren't they?" Drell looked surprised. "Yes. The Harbingers learn quickly. They analyze our tactics and develop countermeasures. Yet you keep using the same defensive formations," Maya observed. "Standard phalanx positioning, concentrated firepower, predictable retreat paths. These are time-tested strategies developed over thousands of years," Drell said stiffly. "Against conventional opponents," Maya countered. "But you're fighting an adaptive enemy. You need to be unpredictable." Several alien officers chittered in what Maya now recognized as derision. "Captain Chen," Drell said condescendingly, "I understand you wish to contribute, but Concordat military strategy is beyond Earth's current understanding. Perhaps when your civilization advances. How many worlds have you lost so far?" Maya interrupted. Drell blinked multiple eyelids in rapid succession, a sign of agitation. 5 outposts and 2 colony worlds. "And you expect different results using the same tactics?" Maya pressed. Before Drell could respond, General Harris stepped in. "What my officer is suggesting, Commander, is that perhaps Earth could offer assistance in ways beyond technology. Tactical expertise, for instance." Ambassador Trellix looked doubtful. "Your weapons can't penetrate Harbinger shields." "It's not about the weapons," Maya said. "It's about how you use them." The aliens exchanged glances, clearly skeptical. 2 weeks later, Maya found herself aboard the Concordat battlecruiser Eternal Vigilance, along with 5 other Earth military advisors. They had been distributed throughout the defensive fleet, ostensibly to observe and learn. In reality, they were being humored while the real military planning happened elsewhere. Maya had been assigned to Commander Drell's flagship, a placement she suspected was designed to keep her contained. She stood on the observation deck, watching as hundreds of Concordat vessels maneuvered in perfect, predictable formations. "Impressive, isn't it?" a voice said behind her. She turned to find a Selrani officer watching her. Unlike Drell, this one's mannerisms seemed less rigid. "I'm Science Officer Kellix," he introduced himself. "You're the human advisor." "Captain Maya Chen," she replied. "And yes, it's impressive. Also vulnerable." Kellix tilted his head. "Vulnerable? This is the most powerful defense fleet assembled in 50 years. Power isn't everything," Maya said. "Your ships move in patterns, predictable patterns." Kellix seemed about to respond when alarms blared throughout the ship. The holographic display on the bridge activated automatically, showing a massive Void Harbinger fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel just beyond the defensive line. Battle stations. Drell's voice boomed over the communication system. Maya and Kellex rushed to the bridge. Organized chaos reigned as officers took their positions, and Drell issued commands from the central platform. Standard phalanx formation. Drell ordered. Primary weapon systems charged and targeted. Maya watched in frustration as the Concordat ships arranged themselves in the exact formation they had practiced repeatedly. The Harbinger vessels, meanwhile, split into smaller groups, approaching from multiple vectors. "Commander," Maya said, stepping forward despite protocol. "They're adapting to your formation already." Drell barely glanced at her. "Captain Chen, observe if you must, but do not interfere." The battle commenced with brilliant energy beams lancing between the opposing fleets. Initial Harbinger vessels were destroyed, but they quickly shifted tactics, sacrificing smaller ships to analyze the Concordat's weapons. Within minutes, they had adapted their shields. Energy weapons at 40% effectiveness. An officer reported anxiously. "Intensify power output," Drell ordered. Maya shook her head. "They're adapting faster than you can adjust." This time, Drell turned to her, mandibles twitching in annoyance. "Do you have something constructive to offer, human?" "Yes," Maya replied without hesitation. "Break formation. Randomize attack patterns. Use your smaller vessels for hit-and-run tactics, while your capital ships provide covering fire from unpredictable positions." "Absurd," Drell dismissed. "Such chaos would leave us vulnerable to flanking maneuvers." On the display, a Concordat destroyer disappeared in a bloom of energy as Harbinger vessels swarmed it. "You're already vulnerable," Maya pointed out. "Your current strategy isn't working." Science Officer Kellex moved closer. "Commander, perhaps we should consider the human suggestion. Our losses are mounting." Drell hesitated, mandibles clicking rapidly, a sign of stress. Another Concordat vessel vanished from the tactical display. "Very well," he finally conceded. "Lieutenant, signal Battle Group Theta to break formation and engage using randomized attack vectors." Maya watched as one section of the Concordat fleet broke from their rigid positions, beginning to move in unpredictable patterns. The effect was immediate. The Harbinger vessels struggled to track and target them, their adaptation momentarily disrupted. Battle Group Theta reporting 20% improved weapon efficiency, an officer called out. Drell's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. "Extend the order to battle groups Sigma and Omega." As more Concordat ships adopted the human-suggested tactics, the battle began to shift. The Harbingers, accustomed to facing predictable opponents, found themselves unable to adapt to multiple shifting strategies simultaneously. "They're retreating," Kellex announced as the Harbinger vessels began to pull back. The bridge erupted in celebratory chittering, but Maya remained focused on the tactical display. "They're not retreating," she said quietly. "They're regrouping." Drell heard her and studied the display more carefully. "She's right. All vessels, prepare for secondary engagement." The commander turned to Maya, his expression unreadable. "It seems we may have underestimated human tactical understanding, Captain Chen." Maya nodded, accepting the closest thing to an apology she was likely to get. "The battle's not over, Commander. And this is just the beginning." As if to punctuate her words, the tactical display lit up with new alerts. The Harbinger fleet had reorganized and was advancing again, this time with even more ships. "They learn quickly," Drell observed. "So do we," Maya replied. "And humans have been fighting against superior forces our entire history." For the first time, Drell looked at her with something approaching respect. "Then perhaps, Captain Chen, it's time we learned from each other." Human ingenuity unleashed. The Situation Room aboard the Concordat flagship Eternal Vigilance hummed with tense energy. Holographic displays showed the advancing Void Harbinger fleet, now twice the size it had been during the previous engagement. Commander Drell stood at the center of the room, surrounded by his senior officers, and, in a significant break from protocol, Captain Maya Chen, and the other human advisors, who had been hastily gathered from throughout the fleet. The Harbingers have adapted to our altered tactics, Drell admitted, mandibles tight with frustration. They're displaying a collective intelligence we haven't seen before. Maya studied the tactical display, noting how the Harbinger vessels had reorganized into fluid formations that mimicked the randomized patterns the Concordat had employed. They're learning from us, she said, but they're still thinking like a conventional military force, just a more flexible one. What do you propose? Drell asked, surprising many of the alien officers with his direct question to a human. We stop thinking like a military force altogether, Maya replied. Colonel Takeda, another human advisor, nodded in agreement. Explain, Drell demanded. Throughout human history, when faced with technologically superior enemies, we've employed asymmetric warfare, Takeda said. Hit-and-run attacks, ambushes, deception, guerrilla tactics, added Major Petrov, a Russian Special Forces veteran. We don't try to match their strength. We target vulnerabilities. The alien officers exchanged skeptical glances. The Concordat has employed standardized military doctrine for over 2,000 years. A senior Selrani officer objected. You suggest we abandon it based on the primitive warfare experiences of a Tier 4 species. Would you rather maintain your doctrine and lose? Maya challenged. The Harbingers have breached 3 more Concordat systems since our last engagement. Your standardized tactics aren't working. Silence fell over the room. Even the most skeptical officers couldn't argue with the facts. What specifically do you propose? Drell finally asked. Maya moved to the tactical display and began outlining a strategy that made several alien officers visibly uncomfortable. Instead of maintaining a united defense fleet, they would split their forces into smaller autonomous battle groups. Each group would employ different tactics, making it impossible for the Harbingers to adapt to a single approach. Additionally, Maya continued, we need to analyze the Harbinger vessels for structural weaknesses. Every system has vulnerabilities. Science Officer Kellex stepped forward. I've been studying the sensor data from our engagements. The Harbinger vessels appear to have sensory nodes along their outer hulls, possibly for environmental data collection. Can they be disrupted? Maya asked. Potentially, Kellex replied. Their shield configurations suggest they prioritize defense against energy weapons, but they might be vulnerable to more primitive approaches. Like what? Drell asked. Maya exchanged glances with her fellow human advisors. Commander, how do you feel about mines? Over the next 48 hours, the Concordat fleet reorganized according to the human design strategy. Engineers worked frantically to modify small drones into what were essentially space mines, simple devices carrying concentrated explosive charges rather than energy weapons. Maya supervised the deployment of these mines in an asteroid field where the Harbinger fleet would have to pass. The Concordat officers remained doubtful, but with conventional tactics failing, they had little choice but to try the human approach. This goes against every principle of honorable combat, a Selrani officer complained as they worked. There's nothing honorable about extinction, Maya replied. We're fighting for survival. The trap was set. A small Concordat battle group led by Maya and Kellex positioned themselves as bait, appearing to defend a vulnerable communications relay near the asteroid field. The main fleet, meanwhile, hid their energy signatures behind a nearby moon, waiting to strike. Harbinger vessels detected, an officer announced. They're approaching the relay. Maintain position, Maya ordered. Let them commit to the attack. The Harbinger ships accelerated toward the seemingly small defensive force, exactly as Maya had hoped. Their arrogance, or programming, led them to underestimate the apparent easy target. They're entering the asteroid field, Kellex reported. Maya watched the tactical display tensely. Wait for it. When the lead Harbinger vessels reached the center of the field, Maya gave the signal. Detonate mines. Throughout the asteroid field, hundreds of primitive explosive devices detonated simultaneously. The explosions weren't powerful enough to destroy the Harbinger ships outright, but they didn't need to be. The real damage came from the asteroid fragments propelled by the explosions, creating a hypersonic debris field that overwhelmed the Harbinger shields. Their shields are calibrated for energy weapons, Maya explained as the aliens watched in astonishment, not physical impacts at relativistic speeds. The Harbinger vessels, suddenly vulnerable, tried to regroup. That's when Drell gave the order for the main fleet to emerge from hiding, weapons blazing. All battle groups, engage according to your assigned tactics, Drell commanded. No standardized formations. The battle that followed was unlike anything the Concordat had fought in millennia. Each battle group employed different strategies, from direct assaults to feigned retreats to ambushes. The Harbinger collective intelligence, accustomed to adapting to predictable enemies, couldn't adjust to so many different approaches simultaneously. Maya's battle group used the confusion to target the now identified sensory nodes on the Harbinger vessels, further disrupting their coordination. For the first time since the conflict began, the Concordat forces had the upper hand. They're breaking formation, Kellix reported excitedly as the Harbinger fleet began to scatter. They're not retreating yet, Maya cautioned. Press the advantage before they can adapt. Commander Drell, watching from the flagship, made a decision that would later be recorded in Concordat military history. All vessels, implement Chen Maneuver Alpha. This was the name they had given to Maya's most audacious tactic, using the Concordat's smaller, faster ships to physically ram disabled Harbinger vessels into each other, creating chain reactions of destruction without sacrificing Concordat crew. The tactic worked. Unable to adapt to the chaotic, multi-pronged assault, the Harbinger fleet finally broke apart, individual vessels jumping to faster-than-light travel in different directions. A cheer erupted across the Concordat fleet as the tactical display confirmed the Harbinger's retreat. For the first time, they had achieved a definitive victory. On the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance, Commander Drell approached Maya. His usual rigid posture had softened slightly. "It appears we had much to learn from Earth after all," he admitted. "Your tactics were unorthodox, but effective. Different problems require different solutions," Maya replied. The Harbingers had never faced human unpredictability before. "The war isn't over," Drell cautioned. "They will return, possibly with new adaptations. And we'll be ready," Maya said confidently. This was just the beginning of what humans can contribute. In the weeks that followed, the human advisors were distributed more widely throughout the Concordat fleet. Training programs were established to teach alien officers the principles of asymmetric warfare, guerrilla tactics, and adaptive strategy. Maya found herself lecturing veteran Concordat commanders on military history from Earth, from Alexander the Great to modern special operations. The Harbingers regrouped and attacked twice more, each time with modifications to counter previous human tactics. But each time, the humans introduced new approaches that the hive mind couldn't anticipate. The balance of the war gradually shifted. 3 months after the first implementation of human tactics, representatives from the Concordat High Command arrived at the fleet headquarters. Maya and her fellow advisors were summoned to a formal ceremony. Captain Maya Chen, the High Commander, began, his voice resonating through the vast chamber. "When Earth joined the Concordat, we classified your species as Tier 4, believing you had little to contribute to our collective security." Maya stood at attention, her face neutral despite the memories of those early dismissive encounters. "We were wrong," the High Commander continued. "While your technology may be developing, your strategic thinking and adaptability have proven invaluable. The Chen Doctrines, as they are now called, have saved countless lives across multiple star systems." He gestured, and an aide brought forward an ornate case. Inside was a symbol Maya didn't recognize, a crystalline emblem that pulsed with inner light. "This is the mark of strategic excellence, never before awarded to a non-founding species," the High Commander explained. "In recognition of Earth's contribution, the Council has voted unanimously to reclassify your world as Tier 2. Murmurs spread through the assembled officers. Tier 2 was an unprecedented jump. a recognition that while Earth might lack advanced technology, its people possessed something equally valuable. Furthermore, the High Commander added, "We request that Earth establish a permanent strategic advisory corps to work with Concordat forces. The Harbingers remain a threat, and we would be fools to face them without human ingenuity at our side." Maya accepted the crystalline emblem, feeling its warm pulse against her palm. She thought about the journey, from being dismissed as primitive to being celebrated as essential allies. "High Commander," she said, "Earth would be honored to continue this partnership." As the ceremony concluded, Commander Drell approached her. "There's an old Selreni saying," he told her. "The wise leader knows when to teach and when to learn. We failed to recognize what you could teach us, Captain Chen. That will not happen again." Maya smiled. "That's the thing about humans, Commander. We've spent our history learning to overcome superior forces. We had to become clever to survive. A trait the Concordat had forgotten." Drell acknowledged. "Perhaps that's why the universe brought our species together." Looking out at the stars through the observation window, Maya could see Concordat and Earth vessels training together, exchanging not technology but ideas, the most powerful weapons of all. "They laughed at Earth's military," she murmured. "They're not laughing anymore." The war against the Harbingers would continue, with challenges yet to face. But for the first time, Maya felt confident in the outcome. The galaxy had discovered what enemies of humanity had learned throughout Earth's bloody history. Never underestimate those who have mastered the art of fighting against the odds. Because sometimes, the most primitive weapon of all is the human mind.